Hello, hello, welcome everyone to In Time. We've been covering the war in Ukraine quite a bit, and I think for all of us it's been a learning experience. It's also been very difficult. I remember when Starsky was talking about his unit in Hostomel and when they had been captured, and the number one question that the Russians asked them was, "Why are you shooting at us? Why are you shooting at us?" It's like, oh dear fucking Lord. What we have here is a failure to communicate, and the Russian perspective on the war is very different than the perspective of any other fucking country looking at this, and I think it's important to try to understand the Russian perspective better. It's very easy to just think of those opposing you as the enemy, and I think, in fact, it's sometimes very useful to just do that. But the reality is they are people, and we're trying to look at the country, and a war happens on all fronts, including hoping that Putin gets overthrown. So understanding what's going on in his mind, in the mind of his people, and in the mind of soldiers is, in my view, very important. This isn't one that's addressed a lot, some cases for rather obvious reasons. Rick the Ukrainian does do something in regards to this, and I think it's very interesting. So we have decided to have him on to talk today about dubbing the videos that are released by the Ukrainian military of interviews with POWs. He dubs them into English and makes them available on his channel, which you will find linked in the description. So we have brought him on, but today is not going to be a single show. You are getting two for the price of one today. I will be talking with him about his experience of the war, his experience growing up in Ukraine, and what has brought him up to the point of the war and where he decided to do this. At this point, you will get your second interview, whereas Andring will be asking him about his dubs, what he's learned, what he's seen, and what Ukrainian POWs have been telling the interviewers as they get interviewed, in some cases by the military, in some cases by journalists. So it is going to be two interviews for the price of one. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for joining us. Without further ado, we will play a very short clip from one of the interviews that I think we're going to be talking about, and then we will bring on Rick.
He kind of like resigned. No, he kind of like hasn't resigned yet. Why are you afraid to call any of them? It is fraught with consequences, as they say. And what do they say while she's answering? It's very interesting. Tell me what they say. Someone kinda called and told something, and then in the news they said that someone was evicted from their apartment and something else was done to them. Some debts appeared and things for calling who? For example, 𝐒𝐻 Putin. 𝐻𝐻, yes. Nice country you have there. Why are you all afraid of everything there? They've probably intimidated us all. This is why everyone is afraid. It's a fact that they've intimidated you. Well, she listened to the voice message. Let's call her once more. See the blue check marks? It means that it is delivered and heard.
Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to In Time. Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
And
guys.
of course, let's see. Did Xandering's shield did not go up? He's here, but his shield did not go up. So
I'm
he's
hiding.
McMillan. He's McMillan today. I don't know why that's the case, but we'll get that sorted in a second. As I said earlier, we have Rick the Ukrainian with us. Rick, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's actually nice to be here. I'm just a bit confused because my shield is closed right now. I see it closed.
Oh, I closed your. Yeah, your shield is. Your shield is closed. You know what? I hit the wrong button. I'm trying to get these sorted. So I'm going to open all of them, and then we'll figure out why.
It's too late.
Oh dear Lord. Well, the great one is, whenever Xandering starts to, get all uppity and give me a hard time, I always sit there and say, okay, and somebody rewires this panel. I hit his button, my shield goes down, and then he just gets to keep talking with impunity. I think it's a conspiracy.
Yeah. But so technical difficulties are actually making it more like natural, right?
Well, absolutely. Well, yeah, and they help. They wake you up. Well, one of the things too is, and it's just that video was a part of a larger video I wanted to show, but we ended up, we didn't have it anymore, so I had to cut it again. And then Xander goes, "Nick, you look a little busy." Yeah, cutting video right before the show. That's the way you want to do it. So, thank you for. Where are you right now?
Kyiv.
Oh,
the capital of Ukraine.
Kyiv.
Yes.
Oh, I'm getting another coughing fit, so you may have to excuse me. But so Kyiv has just undergone one of the largest, actually, I think the largest attack since the war has started. And they've started hitting in the daytime. Is that right?
Yeah, it's right. They are actually hitting Kyiv. Ukrainian version is actually Kyiv. It's hard to pronounce to all the people in the world except Ukrainians, probably, and then maybe just a couple of countries also. But here in Kyiv, we are receiving every night. Every night we have Shahed drone attacks and explosions in the sky because air rockets. Also, I can hear in the night how air defense rockets are flying off and trying to hit those Shaheeds, and they're actually successful. And the rate of neutralized targets is actually super crazy lately. I mean, good, in a good way. It's been 95%, almost. Sometimes it's 100% Shaheeds net neutralized. Sometimes it's also rockets. They do combined attacks. Like, for example, 30 Shaheeds plus 20 or 30 rockets. Attacks like that are happening too. So, but I think 𝐶𝐸 told you a lot about that lately, so I shouldn't be stopping on that.
Well, and we're going to have 𝐶𝐸 on Friday, so Friday 3 p.m. Eastern, 𝐶𝐸 is going to be back. I'm hoping to get Georgie with him, so we'd had Georgie on. We said, same time next week, and I'm used to everybody knows same time next week, but I think he didn't know if I was just being polite or if really, and then I contacted him and he was like, "Oh, okay, we're coming." I was like, "Yeah, would have been nice if I'd followed up with that, so I'm going to follow up with Georgie. Would like to have him on, and of course, Commander Lance McMillan, who's always been a big help. It's just, we appreciate, we've also, when we were talking with Anna from Ukraine, it was trying to sort of figure out how you have a sense of normalcy when 200 rockets are landing or at least flying towards your city a day, and even the ones that get disabled have to land somewhere. It's
may I just say something? Sorry, because of that curtain, I didn't have a chance to say that. First, thank you so much for great introduction. Secondly, I want to say that I'm really happy and excited to be here on this show because you guys do a great job. You gather such a great people around Ukraine, and thank you so much for the interview with Ben Hodges. I listened to it in recording. Sorry, couldn't be there on time when you were streaming, but I enjoyed it a lot, and it gives a great perspective on what our strategic goals are and what risks are and what that Russian narratives, propaganda narratives are endangering us with. It's all a great thing, and I look forward to the part 2 of that show. So I'm really excited to do this double interview today with you. Thank you for this great idea, because I actually have some of my experience to share, and it might be interesting too.
I suspect so. I've spoken with some people around, and so we decided to do the split interview. And I'm a little disappointed myself for not having thought of it from the beginning, because I do think there is considerable value outside of whatever anybody, if General Hodges was in Ukraine this entire time, I would, on top of wanting to know what military insights that he can provide that basically nobody else on the planet can, I would also want to know, okay, what's it been like, living there. So I think the two sort of separate, but rather than have you on twice, we're like, okay, we're going to have you on, we'll bifurcate this. We've done it once or twice before. It sometimes works great, and sometimes turns into a certifiable nightmare, and it's entertaining either way. We do have General Hodges has agreed to 2 more shows, and we're booking them now. He's booking 2 months out, so we're looking at the end of July, and we're trying to he is the hardest guest I've ever had to book. He's very polite, he's very nice, and very eager to help, but it's like, no, busy here, busy here, busy here. I've got a 35-second window here if you want to call me for 35 seconds, and we can figure out when is the next time we can talk. It's like, okay, let's do that.
So, a busy guy, but yeah, but a busy guy who is busy for a reason,
Yeah. Oh, and it was a delight. All right. Well, so let's see. Excuse me. And I'm probably going to end up trying to mute intermittently so that this cough does not keep everybody from being able to hear this. But so you are in Kyiv right now.
Yes.
Where were you born?
I live here. Sorry, I lost you here.
Where were you born?
Oh, I was born in Makiivka. It's Donetsk Oblast. It's actually a satellite city. It's a satellite town, but it's a huge town. So I might call it a city also to Donetsk. So Donetsk and Makiivka are like a huge city, bigger than Kyiv, I guess. Actually, Kyiv is huge, but those two are making even a bigger territory. Territory. That's it. That's where I was born.
What was life like for you growing up?
I was a kid in the 90s, the hardest time for my parents, and it was a challenge for them, challenge for everyone, because after Soviet Union was disintegrated, and all the countries from former Soviet Union countries went into a ruin economically, and it was a criminal activity everywhere on every level. And it was actually really, in the direct meaning of this word or phrase, hard to survive. Sometimes people needed to survive physically. Sometimes there were shootings everywhere on the streets. You could just walk on the street and be shot. That's how it was both in Ukraine or Belarus or Russia. So there were dark times, but I was lucky to have smart parents who were actually giving me good education, and they were caring about me. I was raised in a full family, and I was totally blessed by that. So I must thank my parents for not only making me survive through that time and all our family, but also raising me as probably a smart guy, and actually a guy who is, can tolerate people and their views and problems and stuff like that, because we have a lot of examples where people weren't raised like that here in those times. And if you're interested about the early, from 2002 until 2010, I can tell you about that period, and also from 2010 for until 2014. It was, for me, it was kind of my best time. I was in my 20s, in my early 20s, like from when the war started. I was 23 in 2014, and before that, in early 2000s, Ukraine was actually blooming, and despite all the corruption we had in our politics and stuff like that, everything was growing. Economics was growing great, and we had a prospering city of Donetsk, and I was practically living in Donetsk while I was just going back to sleep in 𝐒𝐴𝐜𝐸. I was studying in Donetsk in university. I actually was lucky to finish studying before the war started. I finished it in 2012, and I didn't need to go through the hell of occupation and studying in occupation. That was something also a problem for people there. And I was actually doing great those times. I felt like I'm living in a European city, and Donetsk was actually just like Kyiv, just like the capital of our country back then. It was prospering. It was a lot of new facilities, shopping malls open up, a lot of technologies back then were implementing on all the levels, and I felt like I'm living in the best city, and I didn't want to go to Kyiv. Like, for example, many people want to go to the capital from peripherals. And it all just was ruined when the war started. So I must say that my life in Donetsk, in Ukrainian Donetsk and 𝐒𝐴𝐸𝐸, were amazing. And I was living in a European country with European values, and my family felt the same. My parents were actually at their best time, and they were, I don't know, they were happy back then. So that's what I can say about living in Ukrainian Donetsk before the war.
Well, so it sounds like, at least, so Soviet Union breaks up in 92. It sounds like the 90s were difficult, but as you got into 2000, there was at least some cause for optimism, and that Ukraine was standing on its feet. What was the thinking of the people? We know the details of the Helsinki Accords. Ukraine gave up the nuclear weapons that it had gotten from the Soviet Union in exchange for guarantees, security guarantees, and a guarantee from Russia, in fact, from Putin himself, if I recall, not to invade. And then you had sort of a problem with Lukashenko. So what was the mood of the people as the Helsinki Accords came to pass? Was this a good idea? Was this a bad idea? And as Lukashenko started to get closer and closer to Russia, what was sort of the mood on the ground there as that was happening?
Well, I must say, are you talking about the time before 2014?
Yes.
I must say that back then we were really naive, and we were brainwashed by Russian propaganda, at least people there in Donetsk, and actually in a lot of places in Ukraine. Russia started carrying out the plans of invasion to Ukraine, as I know, from I guess middle 2000s. It was probably from 2005. The narratives started to pop up. But their propaganda was really strong, and they were actually earlier. They did it. They've done it earlier. Nick, by the way, now your curtain is closed.
Yeah, I close my curtain if for some reason I either have to get up or well, okay. So here we go. Here we do. I also if I'm gonna just take a swig of this now. I once. Just one time, we had no bottles left. I didn't have a lot of time. I grab you know what? One time maybe an exaggeration, but Once or twice, I've had like a 2-liter bottle of. I may have a problem with caffeine. It's another show. 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew. I just started chugging it, and tons of mice got a screenshot and started sharing it of me just chugging a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew. So it's like, okay, let's all pay attention to Rick. We're all going to pay attention to Rick. And my shield is down. I can still hear and everybody, but you don't know what I'm doing. There's also a nasty rumor. So this is my so-called $400 suit. I have to wear it for every show. There's a long history as to how and why, trolling, and involves all sorts of interesting things. But the reality is there's a rumor that this was not a $400 suit. That this was, in fact, a $400 suit, but I only paid $200 for it. And the reason I only had to pay for $200 was, well, let's just say I should not stand up with the camera on. So what I do is I turn the camera on, and then there you go. And that keeps the mystery going, and nobody knows if it's a half of a $200 suit or a full $400 suit. But anyways, I did interrupt you. So what were you saying?
I was saying that Russians started brainwashing us probably from 90s. No, probably from 2000 or 2001 when Putin came to power there in Russia. They started putting their propaganda here in Ukraine. And it was such a, ninja propaganda. We didn't even realize. A lot of us in Ukraine thought that Russians are brothers, just like they always use their narrative until today, that. And
you had statues of Russians in Ukraine too, right? I mean, the culture, and there was a hugely shared culture, and the languages were almost, you could flow from one to another, and everybody would understand you. Yeah.
Putin was actually, and I mean, until 2022, he was a really sneaky propaganda master all over the world, and he's machine. He's propaganda machine. He's regime. They were fooling all the world, talking those stupid narratives about about Ukrainian Nazis and stuff like that. And before that, they did other propagandas. They were actually making our people believe that you remember the revolution of 2004 with it was Yushchenko, our president, against
the revolution of dignity.
Yes, the revolution of dignity. It was of dignity is 2013 and 14.
Okay. Now I am good. So Lukashenko was kicked out. Yeah.
We had an orange revolution back then in 2004.
Okay.
And
that confused me.
Back then, Russian propaganda was already working, and Yanukovych was using its services, and Yanukovych was brainwashing half of the country. I mean, he was successful to brainwash half of the country, and I was a schoolboy back then, and we were filled with hatred back then. Well, not the hatred which makes you go fight, but they really put their propaganda narratives there in our heads, and we just, as a school guys, like kids, we were already brainwashed at some points. Fortunately, Yushchenko won back then, and Yanukovych was failing to win those elections. And that revolution gave us more time, because if Yanukovych came to power, I see it now. I realize it just now that if he came earlier to power, maybe Russia would be successful to making us a country like Belarus, and they didn't even need to invade. But every time a pro-Ukrainian president won the election back then, we had a chance to build up our nation's values stronger, because after Soviet Union, of course, like the biggest part of our country was still having, the identity, national identity, of course, especially the western part of Ukraine had always had a strong sense of that identity. But unfortunately, the regions the eastern regions, we always Russian propaganda worked there. Soviet propaganda was also still had its toll. Yeah, it still had its toll. I'm realizing some things just now, but it was really unfortunate how much damage they did, both Soviet and Russian propaganda. And but it wasn't that bad. A lot of people were pro-Ukrainian. Like I must say that around 50% or even maybe more, definitely around 60% of people from Eastern Ukraine were not brainwashed. They felt themselves as Ukrainians, just like I did and my parents did. And actually, I had a great education in a high school. It wasn't some fancy school. It was just a simple school, but I had Ukrainian lessons there, Ukrainian culture, literature, language, but not all were lucky like me. Some people there on the east went to Russian schools, and they didn't learn Ukrainian, and Russia worked really well to sustain that. They fought with our language, that they fought with our culture, they fought with our sense of nation. Like some of the people there, I'm having some unfortunate examples from my acquaintances who never thought themselves as Ukrainians. They thought themselves as Russians or just as no one. They were like didn't even know who they are, like nationality. And it's I hope all of this explains. Oh no, but I didn't answer your question. I just was making a huge walk around that question. I was saying,
welcome to In Time. That is every single guest and host and everybody. You can't come on In Time unless you get stuck in the weeds throughout the boat. Sorry, I cut you off. Please continue.
Yeah, no problem. It was a great cutoff. I wanted to say that we had no bad opinion about us giving up weapons, nuclear weapons and all the weapons, and we were living in an illusion that Russia is no threat to us, and Russia is a friend, a partner, a lot of still. Man, it's unbelievable, but after Russia's invasion in 2014, a lot of Ukrainians were still fooled, and they kept,
really?
I must say that even now in 2023, we still have businesses ruled by Russian oligarchs still in Ukraine. And some people who are interested in making money with them are still defending those businesses and not giving a go to Russians being excluded, totally excluded from these spheres of influence of theirs. So I must say we weren't, probably a lot of people who had the understanding what Russia really is, they had some bad, not attitude, but sorry, I'm not a native speaker, so I will be forgetting words time to time.
Your English is still extraordinarily good. I will say this: Russians are prohibited from doing business in the U.S. At least anyone on the sanctions list, and I think actually all the country. And they still, you want to know who basically brought back Mitch McConnell's career? It was Oleg Desparov, who did aluminum investments in Kentucky. Without him, we'd probably have no Mitch McConnell. And funnily enough, Mitch McConnell was the one who managed to get him an exception on that list. So the Russians can't do business in the U.S. either. And yet, it was Commander McMillan who we sit with and talk with about Russian propaganda and what they do. And this is something that they've done for centuries, since the Tsars all the way. And they have perfected it in a way that very few people understand or take seriously. Yes. So
yes. And we have a great fight ahead of us. We still, it's still not defeated. It still has its grip on a lot of people around the world, and a great epic battle is still coming.
I'm sorry to say its grip on the U.S. is growing. Now, for many Americans, they are indifferent towards Russia. That's a problem. I don't want to tell people what to think, but I'm just like, it's not that long. It really isn't that long ago from the Cuban Missile Crisis, Russian election interfering, from A to Z. They've been up to a lot, and us dropping out and ignoring it or saying, well, they're okay now. They are not okay now. But that's another show. We'll have you back.
They never change. Yes.
Well,
they're just fooling everyone around with their propaganda over and over. It's 10 years of propaganda, then some happening like that, then another 10 years of propaganda. Or sometimes it's 60 years or 70, like with Soviet Union, or even more. You know how it works.
Well, we've been saying this in the green room, and I think this is not to bring this right back to the U.S. here, but I criticize the U.S. a lot. I get to more than most, I think, in some cases, because I'm an American. That's also why it's kind of my obligation more than most, because if I love my country, then I have to be the one who calls it out and says, hey, wait a minute, guys. And if I want it to be better, it isn't going to get made better by other people. It's going to get made better by Americans who sit there and say, we've identified a problem, now let's fix it. So, and that's an unpleasant process. Nobody likes it. It needs to be done. But the U.S. is great at starting things and having a great idea and saying we're going to do this, and then like halfway through to 80% through going like, oh man, you know what, hold on, is Gilligan's Island on? Can we and it's like between Afghanistan, twice we've done that in Afghanistan, at least twice, Iraq, and Russia. It's like the Soviet Union fell. It's like, oh, we're done. It's like, well, no, we're not done. We still have work to do. No, there's no more Soviet. I read the paper. It said Soviet Union is gone. So it's like, no. Okay, let's fix the new Russia after Gilligan's Island. How's that? Is that a good? No. Once they get off the island. Gilligan, yeah.
Gilligan's Island, really? You're really dating yourself here. Nobody watches Gilligan's Island anymore unless they live out in the sticks and they get two channels and one of them is TV time.
That's why I picked it, because it seems to me like those are the ones who are voting. I could be wrong.
The people going, wait, Squid Game's on. I got to switch the channel.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Gilligan's, what was it? Scene from Galaxy Quest. They're like, you can't possibly think Gilligan's Island is real. Oh, those poor people. They never got off the island. It's like, oh, fuck. All right. Moving on. Speaking of weeds. So, 2014 comes along. It sounds like you were extremely, and actually, tell you what I'm going to do real quick, since we had a natural break anyway, I don't like to interrupt the flow if I can, with super chats and everything like that. And speaking of, oh dear Lord, I should have done a bit more prep. We were talking about prep work before a show, right? And I should have done a bit more prep work. What I like to do on the shows that figure heavily with Ukrainians is invite them beforehand to pick a charity and have all super chats go to that charity. And we've done that with Starsky. We did that with Lance. I believe we may not have done that with Lance, actually. Not Lance, Hodges. But we did do that with Brandon Mitchell, and we've done that with Anastasia, and we do that because we do feel honored to be able to talk to you, and we feel honored to be in a position where we can help what we can. So we do that. I failed to get in touch with you ahead of time and ask you which charity, but if you can pick a charity that is supportive of Ukraine, either if you have one in mind right now, great. If not, you can let us know and or let people know on your channel. Any super chats that we get today, we will send whatever we get. YouTube is going to take 30% of those. That's what they do. Anything past that, all of that, 100. But I did want to. I should have done that ahead.
Should it be a registered organization, or should it be could it be a volunteer?
I prefer it to be, but I prefer it to be because we want to make sure that we're trying to, it eases transparency, but the reality is since it is one of your choice, the Vatra Volunteer Organization is the one that Starsky has chosen. I've done a little background vetting, but the reality is, we say, well, look, this is his charity, so and we support it from that. They look like they're a good organization. What I've checked into, and I've spoken with them, they seem great. They are not a registered organization, and they're sending combat armor to people in the front, and sometimes they're sending weapons. So it's sort of like we would prefer it, but it's not necessary. So that's my long way. You see, you're not the only one who can. Let us not get into let us not get into a contest as to who can talk the most. It's going to be a long year if we do that.
Yeah, Nick, why would you give a simple answer like we prefer a registered one, but we have made exceptions because of extenuating circumstances? No, you have to give them the 15-minute. Let's go on, meander out back.
Okay, that's it. He's making me look like. Here you go. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. I'm gonna mute him because he's making me look like. Watch this. Ready? And crap.
Poor guy.
Yeah, Nick muted himself, and I guess it was intentional. I guess this was the theme.
So,
am I guessing it right?
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. Can we stay on topic for once? Pick a charity, and it doesn't have to be registered. Andrew called it. He said it the best. So if you can think of one now, great. If not, so what we're going to do here is any super chats for this show will go to the charity of his choice. He will notify us hopefully in the next couple of days and or on his own stream so that everybody knows. So that there's transparency. Any super chat, 100% of the proceeds that we get goes straight to that. But as we are doing that, we did have 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐡𝐨𝐥𝐚𝐬, I think I got that right, who is a new follower and who gifted 5 memberships. So thank you very much for that. That's a great way to help out the channel, and we really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And then
Niels came from my community, so you have a new subscriber, I guess.
I am delighted. Thank you very much for that. And then we had Stephen Barnes, who also gifted 5 memberships. So thank you. And I can't wait to talk about your community. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to have this Andrew. But I'm also glad that you said you could stay for 2 hours. That gives us a little more flexibility and time to enjoy the show. With General Hodges, we were just like very serious and on point, A, because he's a serious guy, but B, because we had a lot less time than we wanted.
Nick, if we, sorry to interrupt you here, please. But I just wanted to be on point. If you want us to maybe then have maybe at least, sorry, my English right now is getting a bit bad, but if you want us to do a bit more than 2 hours, we can do it too. So they are not like a straight 2 hours, like super limited. I'm like relaxed at that, so we can do a bit more too.
It's called in time, not on time. If anything ever ends up on schedule around here, we start to freak out. None of us we're not the scheduled type of people. As you may be deducing.
Me too. I'm doing my streams like they've started from 1 hour. Then when community started growing, I started making them 2 hours, then 3 hours. Now they're almost 4 hours long. I'm usually not happy about it, but I just want to stay totally in a good communication with my community all the time. And as I stay with them, they keep asking me questions, and it's getting bigger and bigger, but topics are great. Topics are really interested in helping Ukraine. This is why I value it. And I see that we're also raising money on the stream, and we're all raising them for ammunition and sometimes drones, sometimes cars, for the army. We do it right on stream, and for transparency, I also transfer those money to the fundraiser right on the stream. People see it, and as we speak, usually people donate more. So I'm telling this for the first time. Sometimes, people will hear it, and guys, you know that it's going to be a bit of a revelation. But sometimes I keep doing the stream. I keep doing it, and I have a pleasure talking to you guys. But sometimes we raise some record sums of money when we are doing the stream longer, and the cause, the cause is great because we're helping the armed forces of Ukraine, and for that cause I'm ready to stay up for even 4 hours sometimes.
Well, and that's and it's raising awareness too, so it's all. And the other thing, and I think when we get to your channel and we start talking about that, the other question I want to ask you about is burnout, because that can also happen, and you have to kind of guard your time, because sometimes it's like, well, I could sleep or I could stream and earn more money to help people and to do all this other. There are a lot of YouTubers who burn out, but we'll get to that. What I do want to do is,
Yes.
don't.
Sure.
I would like to say,
yes, please.
If we go 4 hours long, then I'm going to have gone across 2 entire states by then. So think of me driving from Crimea up to Belarus, and that's what I will be doing while we talk. So,
I will say, I was going to say I don't think we're going to do 4 hours, but if it tortures Xandering, I'm willing to sacrifice.
Guys, no.
Well, just remember, the longer we go, the more likely I am to hit that. Even though I can see a cell tower, the more likely it will be that I'll run into a place where you'll be like, so Xandering had something really important and deep, and instead of just pithy comments, let's go to Xandering, and I'll be in a dead zone, and I won't even know you've asked me anything, and you'll be like,
What's great about Xandering on this show is he has never not been there for us. Xandering, what are your thoughts? Xandering? Yeah, that's... all right, well, we got a $2 super chat.
Muted him.
Well, shh, don't tell trade secrets, dude. Bro, don't throw me under the bus.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Xandering's gone through a tunnel, it appears. Can we get... Nope, we don't have him yet. Sorry.
Meanwhile, he's in the live chat going like, I'm still here. I have cell reception. I was like, we have a troll. And could the mods get on that real quick? So $2 from Sinister Porpoise. Thank you, Sinister, for your support. We really appreciate it. No trolling, solipsism, or recursion jokes here, which makes it obviously a recursive joke that only
Okay, guys.
channels...
You asked me about charity. I want to finally answer that question. Yes, I have a friend, Helena. She is a volunteer. She is actually a doctor. This is why she knows everything about medicine and about first aid. And she makes medkits by her own. Of course, not only her husband is helping her. He's a volunteer, so it's like a family thing. They are helping the armed forces of Ukraine. They are receiving requests from all the brigades that are in need, from not the brigades, not on a brigade level, but individually from soldiers. They receive it from some soldier, the request for the medkit, and then Helena is making the medkit. The cost of one good medkit, NATO standard, is $200. She sometimes receives around 10, sometimes even more requests per week. She is receiving money, donations from her patients and from her friends around Ukraine. She has an active Facebook page. People are donating to her, but unfortunately, it's not enough to cover all the requests. This is why I started helping her, and part of the sum we raise on the stream goes to Helena. We started doing it we've been doing it for 3 streams already. This is why, we have a lot of initiatives like this one. They are not registered organizations, but all united. If we take a lot of volunteers like Helena all over Ukraine, you will get thousands of people who are given this small help, which combined is given a huge help to our army. Our army is actually, more than 50% of all the equipment comes from volunteers, not from Ministry of Defense, not from the country. And there are some great registered organizations, like for example, Save Life in UA. You've probably heard about that one.
Yep.
It's the biggest one, and I really respect them, that organization. I trust them. They also have their podcast every week where they give the report about the work of the fund and also talking about the war. They are really, progressive and I don't know how to say it, but they are really efficient. Their organization is really efficient, and they help army a lot. They buy. They've started buying. They are the first organization who is buying some big weapons. They are buying armored vehicles for Ukrainian army. They are buying mortars. They will buy even some bigger stuff. They're buying drones and all the equipment that's needed. So if you need to register the organization, this is going to be Save Life in UA. And or the second name, they have like two names. Second name is Come Back Alive. So this is an organization. By the way, guys, do you have some noises from my window? I can close it.
I just heard one. Yeah, I heard what sounded like an explosion.
Oh no, it was not.
Okay, good.
It was not an explosion.
The first one sounds good. I love the idea of that, med kits. So if you can send me all that information, we will update that in the description. You don't need to send it to me now, but later today we'll put that in the description so everybody knows where it's going, and you can come back here. You can also come find us on the Discord. We discuss Ukraine. We discuss all sorts of. We're an educational program. We talk about anything that sort of is affecting either the U.S. or the world at large. So come join us on the Discord, see what we do and see what we talk about. We've had a number of super chats come in. What I'm going to do is pause on those until our next break, because I do want to get back on the sort of where you how the war affected you personally, and then we'll hit some of the super chats after that, and then we'll pass it off to Xandering. If he's not going through a dead zone, which just, it happens. We'll see. So, 2014, what were you thinking right before the war started? And when it did start, what were your thoughts about the short and long-term future of Ukraine?
When it started, I must say, first you need to know something about me, my background, which I'm not proud of. I was not interested when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. I was not interested in politics, just as Russian propaganda taught us. Unfortunately, not all of us, of course, just those who wanted to eat that shit. And I guess I was one of them, maybe not only because of propaganda, but also because I'm that kind of a person. I'm kind of I was a let me say, sensitive young guy who liked cinema. I was a cinephile. Do you have that word, by the way, in English?
We don't use it that way, and I think you can use it in European countries that speak English, but in American English, we don't have that word. We don't use it that way, no.
Yeah. Okay,
You're a movie buff.
Was addicted
movie buff
with cinema. And
movie buff.
Sorry that I interrupted you. Yes.
Please.
I was not a citizen in full understanding of this word of my country, and I was kind of not thinking about politics at all. This is why I can tell you only things from the perspective of a civilian, but not a citizen of a country, because I must say I'm not proud of it. But I wasn't a real citizen back then. I wasn't interested in politics and in voting. But already back then, I've seen what Russia is doing. I've seen it with my own eyes. And Russian propaganda didn't work at me. It just didn't have an effect. And I saw that when war started, that Russia was just lying to everyone, and it was deceiving everyone. And those formations of Russians that came into Ukraine, I saw that they are Russians, that also they've mobilized the lowest like classes of our society. They've started using some drug addicts, some criminals. They've also put people on the street from prisons, and they've made them working for them. And all the criminals who were, just willing to get the freedom or some power that Russia was giving them. It's actually their method. They are always trying to get some, how can I call them politely, those people? Can you help me with that?
They've certainly been taking a lot of prisoners, people who are in a situation where, there is a word, I can't think of a good word, so I'm drawing a blank too. But I think what you're trying to say is people who are either disenfranchised or for some other reason are not the ones who have an advantage or strong positive roots in a society, and they say, hey, look, we can wipe your record clean. Why don't you go do a special operation? Don't worry, there's no real shooting involved. And, go over there and go do that.
Yeah, and back then in 2014, they've actually flooded the streets of those towns, cities, with villages, with those guys. Of course, there was always someone from Russian military who was ahead of them, but we watched them all on those roadblocks. They've built a lot of them between the cities. They've started, it was very fast. They've started, checking people's documents. They've started just taking things from people. Some of those band formations started just, taking cars from people. They've stopped them on the roadblocks or just on the road. They've put a gun to their heads and tell them to give them their property. They've done that to all the facilities companies. Every part of economics was taken by raid. By power. They took everything. Those band formations curated by Russia been taking everything from people, their businesses, their property. They even took some apartments, and we saw all that outlaw shit, and we knew that it wasn't anything like Russia was trying to show it as an uprising of people, oppressed people, or the uprising of people who were oppressed by Ukraine or something like that, and like revolution or that stuff, or the civil war. These are all narratives. The truth is the opposite. We saw it with our own eyes. The people of Ukrainian people who lived there, and we actually knew what is happening. We tried to tell it to the world, but unfortunately we lost. I mean, Ukraine back then, Ukraine lost the war, the propaganda war with Russia, and they did not succeed in showing the truth to people, and especially to Donbass people. Donbass people, a lot of them were trying to just deny a lot of stuff, and they tried not to admit some things because it was simpler to them. Unfortunately, they've fallen for Russian propaganda, and that propaganda brainwashed them for next 9 years until today. And this is going to be a huge work when, to make them realize the truth, to make them fully see. Some of the people, we still have a lot of people there still in Donbass who are for Ukraine, who are waiting for Ukraine to come back and to deoccupy the territories and freedom, and they realize what is happening. And we we still have a lot of people there who just want to be left alone, and I mean, not all of the people who are kind of supporting Russia there. Not all of them. I mean, not even half of them want Russia to be there. They don't care. A lot of Donbass people don't care about who will rule them, what country they will live in, and unfortunately, it's also a consequence of Soviet Union propaganda and of Soviet Union state of mind. Soviet Union was trying to erase the ethnicity. It was trying to erase nation. It was making all of the people a Soviet people, and all the peoples even like that. And they tried to erase those nationalities. And unfortunately, I must say, they succeeded. They've succeeded in for many of the people. Fortunately, our nation survived in every corner of Ukraine, even despite Russian propaganda. There are a lot of Ukrainian but not Soviet people there too. So I must say, I got carried away again from the initial question. I understand, but I might I forgot the beautiful word for it, but I might guess your next question if you don't want to make a pause for super chats or stuff.
I'm going to make a quick pause because there was a good question that I think dovetails in with this. So we've got Steve Barnes, 10 pounds for medikits or drones. Thank you so much. And again, come join us on a live chat, and we'll follow up. On the super. Wow. On the Discord.
May I interrupt you just for a bit? Please. Because I want to talk about Stephen Barnes. Well, it happened like half an hour ago already, or maybe even more. I just didn't want to interrupt you. But Stephen Barnes just become a member on Buy Me a Coffee, and he become a HIMARS member, and it's $100 per month. It's crazy. It's the biggest tier I have. So Stephen Barnes, I'm really grateful to you. Thank you so much for all your support. Stephen was also donating very generous sums of money on the stream previous, the one that was a week ago. And Stephen Barnes is just a legend. So shout out to this amazing person.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. So thank you, Stephen. We certainly appreciate it, and Rick obviously. So thank you so much. We have a marvelous $50 super chat, which we really appreciate. Thank you very much for that. Cheryl Watley asked this question. This is what got me thinking about it. How do you become immune to Russian propaganda, and can this work for others? So you said you saw through it very quickly. Is that something that you saw? How is it that you fight Russian propaganda? And then we'll get, because I do want to. I want to get into the what happened once the war started. But I think this is a good question. How do you fight the propaganda?
I must say that it's a combination. I'm going to try to be short, but I'm not the shortly speaking person. But I'll try to be. First, it's a combination of two or maybe three things. Let's begin with first, the education, Ukrainian education. I've learned a lot from classes of Ukrainian literature and history, and some of the people were resistant that, and that's something that made them not immune to Russian propaganda, because they were just eating the narratives of Russians, and I knew that history was actually different, and Russians are not really our friends. It's the first thing. Second thing is my family, and it's actually the second part of education, I guess, because family is usually, it's also a social institution, and it makes a citizen out of you. So I must say, I was partially a citizen. Definitely, I was a citizen of Ukraine. I must not say that I wasn't completely, just in some part of it. I wasn't, but I was, and my family made me a Ukrainian, and I'm really grateful to them. And I guess this third thing is a critical thinking, because some people lack critical thinking, and I fortunately have it. And that's what helped me resist Russian propaganda, helped me doubt in their narratives and really understand that it's not the truth. That's it.
So when Russia takes Ukraine, what was your thought about? Took Crimea. What was your thought for the future of Ukraine? Were you scared? Did you want to get involved right then and there? Did you want to move? What started going through your head?
Okay, when it started in 2014, first I traveled to the other part of Ukraine. We didn't know what was happening there. First, by the way, the real war when it started there in Donetsk and 𝐒𝐬𝐜𝐿𝐴, I was in vacation. Yeah, I was just at a seaside, and I just decided that I need to stay there for a couple of weeks more. We all thought that Ukraine will be able to just come back real quick and defeat all those bands. And we didn't know back then. We didn't know that Russia had some huge forces there, and I just moved. I was waiting there on the seaside for a couple more weeks more than I decided to initially. And then I saw that situation is not changing for the better. This is why I moved to the western part of Ukraine and spent there about 3 months. Then I've come back home because I had cats there who needed me, and I went back in the end of 2014. I went back, I guess it was November or maybe October, it doesn't matter really, but it was the end of 2014. I came there to occupation, and back then you were able actually travel alone. You could easily go back to Ukraine from occupied territories, and you could come back to occupied territories. There were actually for around 5 years until COVID started, they were making money there on those roadblocks, on those we call them block posts, but on the line of when to on the front line. Yeah, they had those when the conflict when that war was frozen. We traveled along. We went back to Ukraine a lot of times. I was traveling to Ukraine every half a year minimum, sometimes like every month. And I was so happy to come to Ukraine and to, have a breath of freedom, because there in occupation it was a torture. It was like a slavery. And when you come back to Ukraine, you saw the difference. You saw the difference just there on the street. You went on the street and you felt that you're not living in a police state, that you're not living under some totalitarian regime, that you're back at democracy. You can feel it just by going on the street. So I came back there for my cats, and we started living there with my wife and cats, and we lived in occupation for 4.5 years, and it was the next topic I must unravel to you. So maybe you want to say something.
Well, I think that was going to be my next question, which was, what was my understanding is it got worse and worse in the occupied area. What was the worst part of it, and at some point did you realize that you just had to get out?
Okay, yeah. So when you live there, you slowly see how your beloved city of Donetsk and your town of 𝐒𝐬𝐜𝐿𝐴 are turning into something of a shadow of the previous version of the city. like 70% of all shops, of all shopping malls, of all the, plants also, of all the productions, they are simply not working, they're closed, everything is degrading, more and more shops and plants are closing, and mines too, because it was kind of mining region, we had a lot of mines there, and they were closing one by one. Everything is just going to decay, everything is degrading, and you see that you have no perspectives there. There's only one way to actually develop there, but it's kind of the opposite, because it's the degradation, it's not development, to go and serve to Russians there.
Well, and why would anyone want to invest in there? The Russians don't want to invest in there because they're still trying to suppress the native population. They're trying to, and that if they end up losing the territory, they lose the investment, and Ukrainians can't invest in there because I probably don't want to either, because it's occupied territory. So all that happens is, it just seems to me like it's a state of decay from the moment of occupation.
Yes, and it was, I felt it. Of course, some small initiatives, for example, my friends opened a bar there, a rock bar. It was like it was called Underground Stage, and I really love Underground Stage. I'm a heavy music listener, and I really enjoyed spending time there with them. But even with these small initiatives, you see how they've been constantly, how can I say it, when they are not taxes, it's something that Tsars took from the peoples they've oppressed. How do you call this thing?
I don't think you're looking for tithe, because tithe is usually religious, but it's a I can't think of the word, but they're skimming the money off of the people is really what they're doing.
Yeah, they're just sucking them off of their money, and it's actually it was just getting worse. Some small businesses tried to appear there. But either you do what Russia tells you, and for that you also must become ideologically pro-Russian and stuff like that. And it felt like the USSR. It felt like you are getting back to some 70s or 80s, while Ukraine is living in 2000, let's say 16 or 17, for example, when they have technology. Also, Ukraine had everything. I mean, a booming of services, booming of electronic technology. For example, do you know about our service 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴?
No.
𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴 is actually like all the documents in our smartphone. We have our passport, and we cannot carry around our passport or ID. It's all there in the app, and it's actually making things much more easier, a lot less paperwork. You can even start your business through this service. Of course, it has some risks, but they've been tested. This system been tested. How do you call it when some extreme cases of testing? I forgot the term for it.
Not the outliers, but the well, outliers is a term. It's probably not the ideal term.
It's been stress tested.
Stress tested. Yes, that's the term. Thank you so much, Sandrine. Stress tested. Yeah, it's been stress tested. So I saw how Ukraine is developing, how everything is growing there, and I saw the degradation there in those so-called DPR. And actually, DPR was progressive than LPR. LPR felt like they're living in 40s, like in Stalin's times. But DPR, so-called, felt like were living in 80s, which is, or 70s, when it was like the degradation too of Soviet Union. So it felt like that, and Russia was cultivating it. Also, agitation, is it a word? Propaganda banners. Do you use that word, agitation?
Agitation, or?
No, it's not agitation. Just let me translate it.
Aggregate, like adding, or okay. I'll let you look it up.
Maybe agitation. Yeah, it's actually agitation. Sorry, that's the word.
Yeah.
So they were putting those banners like in Soviet times. They've actually been making them from Soviet time banners. Like, for example, that one that, did you sign to the army to protect your homeland? And it was terrible. Can you imagine living in 21st century in a place like this? It felt like North Korea sometimes.
We've always been at war with East Asia, but yeah.
Constant curfew, been there all the time. We could not spend time on the street or at any place after 10, and later it became 11, but still it felt like, all the rights, all of your rights are cut off, and your basic human rights, almost all of them. You could not easily go from one place to another. You constantly needed to be checked on roadblocks. You needed to follow the curfew. You cannot, the biggest thing of it, of course, you cannot say anything about supporting Ukraine and being pro-Ukrainian. It was dangerous. I must say, it was not that dangerous as it now. Right now, you can be shot in the head, but it depended on the situation. For example, if you were sent to the military men, to Russian military men, you could be shot in the head there. Definitely, no doubt. Especially in the years, then it got softened. They've started fight those band formations, those bands, and they've started making that some kind of army, and that army had some discipline, and that army was not making like mass shootings and stuff like that. They were trying to act like they are civil, like they're not savages, but they were savages. But if you would say that something like that, for example, to the military or to some like government worker, later they could come for you and put you into the basement. They've called them basements. Take someone to the basement. These are their torture facilities, torture rooms, where they took people and keep taking them. They have them all over those so-called republics. One of them, by the way, is famous. It's isolation. Have you heard about that one?
Isolation as a tactic, or if isolation you mean as the name of a specific place? I've not heard of it.
Yes, the name of a specific place. There's a book called Isolation, or In Isolation, don't remember exactly, but it is written by a Ukrainian activist who spent 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, there in that torture facility. And he is describing everything in details. He's describing the characters of those torturers and of the people who's been there. And of course, there was always a risk to go there, especially if you are publicly speaking about it. If you're just talking to some random guy on the street, actually, some people were like, they were lucky to tell everyone around them, to their neighbors, for example, that they are not pro-Russian, that they are pro-Ukrainian, and still be there unharmed. That happened too. So it was kind of different. It was different, and some people managed to survive, even having openly pro-Ukrainian position.
Did you know anybody
Yeah.
who either went to the basement or to isolation?
No, no. I wanted to say fortunately, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
yeah, fortunately, in this case, definitely fortunately, because I mean, yeah, fortunately. Why should I even say unfortunately?
No, well, well, I mean, I think you're aware that those stories need to be told, and so I think your instinct to want to be able to tell the story for a moment superseded your realization that thank God that nobody went through that. So at some
Yeah.
point you decided you were gonna leave Makiva. You were gonna leave, and
Maki,
you moved Makiv. Thank
sorry.
you. Please, I need to learn to pronounce these correctly. So Makiv. So you decided you were going to leave. Was there something in particular that inspired that, and where'd you go?
Uh, I don't know if I should be talking about that, but my wife was someone who encouraged me. I'm really grateful to her for this. She always had much better understanding of the absence of any perspectives there, and I was kind of inert in some points. I'm not proud of that too, but I want to be fair with you, all of you guys who are watching today. By the way, too, I'm actually I'm gonna take a moment to maybe interrupt myself, and I just wanted to thank all the people who came to the stream today. You guys are amazing. I see more than 100 people. And a lot of people from my community too. I'm really grateful to everyone who came to the stream today. You guys are amazing, and how can I say it? I'm flattered that you are interested in my story. I hope you are interested. Thank you so much. So I was saying that wife was in the like stimulating me. Yeah, she was stimulating me to make this decision. But I must say that after some time, I already started wanting it myself. Yes, I saw that I want to develop. Back then, I was trying to develop and build in PCs. It's something I liked, and I reached some level where I saw that there are no perspectives there for me, and I must travel to some bigger town or city, better city, and to the capital in particular. And of course, it would be Ukraine. I never wanted to go to damn Russia, to that Moscow. Yeah, there were two options for that development: Moscow or Kyiv, and of course, I've chosen Kyiv. We were traveling to one. Yeah, we found friends in Ukraine that summer, and friends from Ukraine, new friends from Ukraine, supported us. We were actually, let's say friends from Kyiv. When I'm saying friends from Ukraine, I'm actually from Ukraine too. And even when I'm living in occupied territory, I'm still from Ukraine, and I'm living in Ukraine. That's how I want to talk about it. And I actually wanted to be free because it also felt, it's all combined. You see, I felt like I have no perspectives. I felt that I have no rights there, and I also felt that I have no what was this third one? Yeah, so it's the feeling when you live there that is making you eager to get out there. Yeah, your mic is off, Nick. I cannot hear you.
It wouldn't be a show if I didn't mute myself at least once. So, thank you. So, I think we're going to get into sort of why you started a channel. What was your goal? And I want to get into that. So I want to pass that off to Xander in a minute. Unless there's anything else that you can think of that we've missed till that point. You've been in Kyiv. You've been watching the war. Is there Anything in particular that stands out that you wanted to discuss before we start getting into your channel?
I think I covered most of the topics, and I'm getting, just a bit tired physically, and it's hard to think straight all the points that I was wanting to make. So that's it for now. Maybe Sandrine will ask me something too.
All right, Sandrine.
Sure. So you started a YouTube channel. What did you start your YouTube channel for?
Okay, so before becoming Rick the Ukrainian, I was Rick Carl, and I actually started it back then in 2019 or 20. Yeah, I was a kind of a content creator, and I started this channel as a gaming content creator. I made some memes, some gameplay videos. That was actually a point of my interest back then. I wasn't really a politically speaking citizen, and I was creating the channel as a YouTube content creator, and I'm also not proud of that. Again, I already told you that, but whatever, I'm gonna repeat it. but I was unraveling my potential as an artist back then, and when the full-scale invasion started last year, of course, first couple of months we all spent shocked. We didn't know what. I mean, some of us definitely knew what to do, and we've started helping, and me too. We've started volunteering, helping our armed forces, but after first month or two, it started to kind of slow down, and we realized that we cannot carry out like that, and not all of us are made to become like those volunteers who provide military with all the equipment and stuff. And I understood that this is not my thing. I'm not best at it. What I'm best at it, I've been already streaming, by the way, when I was a content creator. I thought that I must turn my channel in something different, in something new. I've started doing this in May last year, so my new channel, Rick the Ukrainian, is 1 year old, just a bit more than 1 year old, and it has become the streaming platform, not the platform, streaming channel that was made. Actually, I'm doing the same right now. It's something that I began with a year ago. I started streaming, who's from Canada. He was very supported from the very beginning of full-scale invasion, and he was really eager to know what is happening there. And we started doing it just together on Instagram, by the way. We started streaming on Instagram. That platform is definitely not made for streaming, but we've come a long way since then. It was a shitty quality without any, in all the meaning of that, not the meaning, but senses of that. It was like, just us talking, and then 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴, our first viewer. Well, we had more viewers, but those viewers came from my older channel, and they were interested in only gaming content. This is why they haven't stayed there on the channel. But we had our first and best ever viewer, 𝐍𝐢𝐜𝐴, back then in May last year, and for several months we were just three of us, one viewer, and me and Jet talking. Then one by one, people started coming. Then I had the great idea of, it popped off in my mind. Let me say. No, not say, but think. Yeah, it popped up in October. I found Zolkin's channel somewhere in summer last year. And I've started listening to those interviews, and I really liked what they are. I really liked what 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴's style is, and how he is, talking to them, and what things he's getting from them, and what Russians really are. Their them mentality. It all impressed me so much, and I wanted to share this with people. I wanted to make not only inform people about what's going on in war, but to give them an insight into Russian state of mind, Russian mentality, and Russian propaganda brainwashed brain. I just wanted, because I've noticed that 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴 is translating it, but kind of with Google Translate, with automatic captions, and it's just terrible in terms of understanding what they're talking about. This is why I wanted to make a good translation of that. I was always loving English. I have a good probably speech, and I also wanted to make it not just subtitles, but dubbing, because dubbing is easy to listen to when you're doing something, because sitting there in front of the screen for an hour or sometimes for 2 hours, not everyone, for example, I won't do that. Not everyone is able to do that. It's really hard, and especially when subs are automatic captions, it's really hard to do that. This is decided to make it available to more people. Also, it is good for people who's using only their how do you call this sense of hearing.
Well, for auditory learners, or people who process auditory as opposed to visually.
Auditory, auditory learners. Thank you for the term. So yeah, I was working on the first dub. It was something new to me. I never dubbed anything. I've done subs before in my life, but never like that. Never with translation. I was making some Russian subs back in the days when I was young. I'm still young, but when I was a teenager or just a student, I was making subs, but I wasn't making translations like this. And it was a challenge, definitely. First one was a challenge to me, especially considering that I've started making it in October, when mass attacks from Russians started happening. They've started getting down our energetic infrastructure, and I had to find like only, let's say, 2 hours per week when I could do that translation. So it took me 3 months to make the first interview, and I posted it in the beginning of January. I've posted the first interview, and it was definitely a success. The channel started attracting a lot of people. I had around 500,000 views in just 3 weeks, I guess, on the first interview. And I saw by the feedback of people that it is definitely needed, and it's something important and really interesting to people too, not just to me, that I'm not mistaken, and it's something that must be done. And I've started working more on it after that. I've started gathering team bit by bit. Our channel started getting people, and of course, people who are interested in those interviews are people who are interested in Ukraine and in supporting Ukraine. This is why we've grown our streaming community a lot. A lot of people. I met so many great people who are actually in this chat right now with us. I would say that I'm really touched by the amount of support. Can I say it like that? Of people. Absolutely, the amount of support that people provided me with, and Ukraine. And the goal of my streams is raising funds for the armed forces of Ukraine, and with it, we're also helping our army. This is why I consider people are helping in that directly to our army. I'm just a vessel to transfer those money for the equipment that they need. And I want to thank everyone who joined my community, and everyone who's interested in those interviews, who's interested in Ukraine, and interested in knowing the truth, because Russia is a master liar, and fighting it with truth is a hard thing, because it's sometimes hard to, I mean, people sometimes don't want to believe the truth because the truth is ugly, and truth is not something that they usually want to know. This is why I guess propaganda and misinformation are working that great. That's it. I guess that's it about my channel. It was pretty unraveled. I guess there could be no more questions about that.
So you put up your first interview there. Took a long time, quite a lot of effort. You noticed that there's quite a lot of resonance with what you were doing. Why do you think that the people watching that found it so important, and they kept, more and more people were watching? What was it about the dubbing of the interviews that you think people found most useful and most important?
Okay, I guess by the comments of people, I've seen that they are grateful for showing us what Russians really, for showing them what Russians really are. By the way, guys, am I interrupting for you?
You cut out for a second. You've been cutting out once or twice intermittently. It's not terrible, and we're used to. Usually, it's worse when we're talking to Ukraine. So you've been batting at least average, if not a bit better. So you're doing good.
Okay, thank you. I also lost 𝐒𝐨𝐮𝐭𝐭𝐞𝐫 there for a bit. So 𝐒𝐨𝐮𝐭𝐿, could you please repeat the question for me to be sure that I'm correct in my answer?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering. You put up your first interview. You put it's a lot of work, a lot of effort. Not something that you necessarily had really planned on doing before. What was so important about it that prompted you to do this in the first place? And then with the response and all of the people that kept watching and saying this was great, what was there? Why did they think it was so important to them? Why did they keep subscribing and more people come to watch? What did they find of value in it?
First value for them is to understand, because understanding doesn't come from 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴𝐻𝐿 channel. With subs and with also dubbing, they do the automatic dubbing. Robotic voices are reading the lines, and people felt that this is even more terrible than reading subs. And they mostly thank me for giving them the opportunity to fully understand what they're talking in those interviews, because bringing the truth is something that 𝐒𝐤𝐜𝐴𝐻𝐿 does when he speaks to them, but making people helping people to understand what they're talking about. I guess these are the most things that they are thanking me for. And people are eager to know what in those occupiers' minds, and they want to know what drives them to come here to die for Putin, for his ambitions, and what how Russian propaganda works. Sometimes they are talking to me, not realizing that in the comments. Not realizing that I'm not 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴𝐻, and they are giving me some hard times that I'm talking to prisoners of war in the wrong way or something like that, or just accusing me in something.
That does bring me.
Yeah.
That does bring me quite nicely to one of the questions that I wanted to set up for the next few questions, because there's been lots of people that are outside of the war, and it allows them a certain detachment, a certain critical eye. They can look at things and maybe balance things a little less. biased. So they've said, well, these are interviews with prisoners of war being held by the enemy forces. And we shouldn't necessarily put a lot of stock into what they're saying, that they may be exaggerating their stories to find sympathy with, since they are being held by the hostile enemy force. On all of watching these interviews, do you get the idea that these people are possibly exaggerating their stories, embellishing their stories to seem more sympathetic, or does it come across more genuine, that like, no, this is really their stories?
Thank you, Sandrine, for this great question. It was something, also something I have in my points that I wanted to talk about. Definitely, it must be talked about. Thank you for this question. So, I want to say that most of them are definitely not saying a lot. Most of them are hiding their crimes. Most of them are acting fools. Like, I must say that by my observation, I've watched, like, I don't know, around 300 or 400 of all those interviews. Still not all of them, but I'm moving to that goal bit by bit. Anyway, they are mostly just avoiding answering questions. They are mostly, I don't know, or stuff like that. They a lot of them seem like I mean, someone who've committed crimes, who are here by their own willing, who are here believing in propaganda, believing in that they're fighting Nazis, and actually believing in good cause. You know, their propaganda brainwashing them pretty well. It is convincing them that they are for the right cause in here, that they are just coming here to protect poor people of Donbass who were bombed for 9 years. And this is why it is really important to work with them in captivity, to show them the truth. But will they believe this truth? They might, a lot of them will think it's just a propaganda. I guess a lot of them just don't believe what Zolkin is saying, even when they agree with them. With Zolkin and Karpenko. Karpenko is the second interviewer. It is his friend, and he's the one who's been doing the last few hundred of interviews. Zolkin is not appearing that often lately there, and Karpenko is actually a great guy, and I like his style of interviewing. And all of them, yeah, most of the times when they agree, I am sure that they are doing that just to, look good in the eyes of the interviewer. They want to be nice Russians who haven't committed anything, who weren't shooting anyone, who weren't, meeting any civilians there.
I was in Ukraine. Yeah. I was playing paintball in Moscow, and then ended up. I don't. Why are you guys mad at me? Yeah. I'm sure that never happened.
Yeah, stuff like that. And actually, Zolkin and Karpenko, they are constantly telling them the same. Guys, none of you were shooting. None of you were here with intention of killing. And all of you are just so innocent. How can we believe that, guys? And they're saying, I don't know about the others. I wasn't shooting. I wasn't killing, definitely. So, yeah, I'm sure that 90% of them are not telling the truth, are avoiding to answer truthfully, are also lying, and some of them are just not talking because they can also say no to the interview. And Zolkin and Karpenko, they have an archive of refusals. They come there with a prisoner of war. They ask him, do you want to make an interview? The prisoner says, no, I don't. And they keep it somewhere there on a disk or maybe on a flash drive. All those interviews with refusals. So they are super short. They're like a couple of minutes. Will you talk? No, I don't want to talk. And it's actually really important. And all those Geneva Conventions that are being mentioned on comments a lot too on my page, my channel. Those accusations that by showing them to public, you're just making Geneva Convention. No, I was not making, but you're breaking Geneva Convention.
Yeah, they're violating.
Violating.
Yeah.
Yes, great. Thank you for the word. Violating Geneva Convention, and they are, just. They're just not understanding everything, that they are actually given their consent. It's first, and there's also the term not public, but I guess crowd. In Geneva Convention, there's an interest of a crowd in 13th or 14th article, which says that prisoners of war shouldn't be, shown to the crowd or shown to the interest of the crowd. And it is something that you can definitely misunderstand by reading that convention. So I hope I answered your question fully, Isandra.
Yeah. Of the people who do talk and are willing to elaborate a little bit more, that maybe aren't just obviously pandering, do you notice any common themes in their stories? Is there a common thread that keeps coming up in the interviews?
Yeah, definitely, a lot of them actually. Let's get to my list. I'm gonna be just talking about points one by one. So second, it is second, but first one is for rest. But let's start with this one. Most of them have bad education. They are ignorant, and actually, in Russia, ignorance is encouraged. It's something that I've noticed that, that there's also even a saying in Russia. It sounds like knowing less means better sleeping. They actually, put it in the.
We would call that ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah, so you have that shit too. Unfortunately, I see it as a propaganda of ignorance, and I must say that in Russia, they, of course, there's a matter of just a classes of their society. They have lower classes that are mostly going to the army, and if people don't have. If people have money, right? And corruption is one of the one of the shit.
Well, it's an easy way to get money. Corruption is the central way to get money. Honest people don't make money in Russia.
Yes, but I meant that corruption is something that is basic in Russia, and if people have money, they can easily make their way out of the army by just paying off. That's what I wanted to say. This is why we mostly see some uneducated people there, and they're mostly just cannot make even a few sentences. Sometimes they go to the interview, and every question that Zolkin or Karpenko asked them, they answer with, "Well, I don't know. Well, what can I say? I don't know," and stuff like that. And they're just making those. I don't know. I must say I've noticed something just now that I should have translated and dubbed those uninteresting interview to show the level of most of the occupiers, but the problem is it's a really hard work, and it takes months, and I don't want to spend it on that shit, of that uninteresting stuff. I just want to bring people the most interesting of them, some not standard interviews with them just being how do you call it? Do you call it mooing? When we call it when they just moo, they're just like cows and stuff like that. When they have nothing to answer and they just say and moo in there. But Yeah, the question was points. So this is something that I've noticed. Something the most common is that they're not educated. Let's move on. Sorry, Putin is a saint. He's never the one to blame. They cannot even assume that all their savageness is their official politics. That's what I typed there for the point. So, guys, maybe you want to comment something on the first point about them being uneducated.
I've certainly noticed a few things. I don't know if Xandering had anything that he could think of specifically. I can think of a couple.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. A lot of times that in the kind of military that I've been learning about that the Russian government keeps, it does not surprise me that you would have a lot of your competent troops being of less education, being more ignorant, not really, especially being the lower classes. Those are the kind of people that you can scoop up and throw into a war, the kinds of war that Russia has historically fought. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
I remember the interviewer was asking at one point, he was just like, how many people are in Russia? And the guy's like, why would you, who is, the only thing I could think of is, as a literary reference, is his answer was essentially, who is John Galt? It's like, who cares? Why does anyone know? Why are you asking a stupid question? And he said, well, think about it. And he goes, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 million. I think it could be more. What on the outside do you think is how many it is? And I was trying to figure out where he was going with this. But he's like, okay, maybe it's 50 million. He said, okay, how many people do you think in Ukraine? I was like, oh, okay, now I see where we're headed. But, he doesn't know that. He can't even, it doesn't. And he's like, and then he asked him, and he said to him, okay, now this guy, and it's the one that we showed in the beginning. I think that may have been a different one, but the one that we showed in the beginning, this guy, and at some point I would like to talk specifically about this one, but what I found interesting about this one was, so when he was 6 years old, he was put into an orphanage. The reason he was put into an orphanage, his mom was still alive, but she had murdered his stepfather with an axe. His dad went missing at some point, so presumably had also been murdered by the mother with an axe. She had taken the young boy, this guy who's now been captured by Ukraine, taken him and tried to feed him to a dog. Live. I mean, she tossed him in and was trying to get the dog to eat him. She was not a very pleasant woman by any metric that I can find. And eventually she tried to kill the boy with an axe too, and he hid with the dog, no less, and the dog actually did protect him, having bitten him and half eaten him the last time around. This is the guy that the Russian military is throwing, and there are sort of the people who are the most unfortunate in any military, including the U.S. But they apparently they had told him, they had come and drafted him, and he said, well, I have 3 kids. He's a dad. He's trying to keep, 3 kids afloat. And they're like, no, you're going. And he doesn't know how to fight it. He doesn't even know if it's possible. He doesn't know who's where. He doesn't seem to know anything. And who can blame him? At 6 years old, he gets put into an orphanage because his mother, tried to kill him after killing at least 3 people. And it's sort of like you look at his life. He's sitting there with a gunshot wound. He's married. Was building a life for himself, and between him and all these other guys are like, well, I get a knock on the door one day, and it's the authorities, and they said, oh, you've got to come fight this military operation with us. It's nice and safe. You'll be back no time, but you got to go. I said, I'm not going to go. They're like, oh, okay. Your business now owes, 6 billion rubles in back taxes. He's like, wait a minute, what? This is new to me. Yeah, so we're going to send you to Siberia and you're going to work hard labor. And I was like, what can I do about that? Well, you can go help with a special operation in Ukraine. And, and that's what you see. At least that's what I saw.
Thank you for taking this exact piece. Because this was, I guess, my favorite interview in all of that I've done for now. That guy is actually, I try not to feel any compassion to those, but this guy, oh my God, what he went through in his childhood and how fucked up he got after. I mean, his alcoholism, he was talking about it too there in an interview. And he just started to go back on his feet. He got a loving wife, a kid, and you see this just used material, this used person by his own government, and you feel that he's sincere. Definitely, this guy was sincere, I'm sure, but this one wasn't avoiding anything, and he's actually a simple guy. He's not like a deceiver. It seems that he's totally straight, and he's not talking some lies. And that guy, the bear, remember his call sign, the bear. I'll forever remember him as the bear. That guy is actually being used. And another most common thing among them is that Russia is actually doing a great thing in conscripting them. By propaganda, it's actually achieving, how do you call it, an outstanding result. When Russia is telling them that prison is worse than war, it is actually, their propaganda convinced them in that this war is something light comparing to the prison term in Russia, because it's actually a living hell in Russia, even without war. They've made conditions there in Russian prison terrible. They constantly torture and rape people there. They kill them there too. So Russians know about that. Russia is actually making this known to public, so Russians would be afraid to go to prison. And those conscripts are actually willing to go there just, to war. And they are willing to go to Ukraine for two reasons. First reason, they are scared of prison as hell. They know that if they go there for 10 years, their life will be ruined. They will also have no life after the prison, because a system is built in Russia like that. If you go back from prison, you cannot find any work. You cannot find yourself in society. I know that happens to many other prison systems in other countries, but Russia made made the best of it. they just
the most
turned it into the most what? Nick?
Yeah. Well, I don't say they made the most of it, because that would imply the opposite. But they have that problem the worst of most countries, which is when you get out of prison, there's just nothing you can do. It's worse in Russia than it is in others, though all countries have it. Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to finish up with this. So the most common thing about them, about especially mobilized, that they don't know what they are going. And it's the second thing. First thing is prison is worse than going to Ukraine. And second thing is they've constantly been told that they're going to be standing on the on the third line, or even in Belgorod region in Russia. They will be like territorial defense. They won't be on the front line. And they all believe it. They all are so naive. They all believe they're officials. And it's something that, is the most common amongst all of them. They've been fooled like puppies. They've been fooled like children, all of them. And two things in their propaganda help Russia just take them as meat, and also meat that will go there by their own will. They will not be doing any riots, because they think that there's nothing scary about this war. They've constantly been told on television that their forces are winning, and they will be just supporting the winning forces who are advancing. And this is something that is making them go here willingly. That's it.
I want to interrupt for one. I want to hear Xander's next question, but I do want to interrupt. Do you think Putin wants them dead? Because, I mean, if they die, he doesn't have to feed them in prison.
I must say, he just doesn't care. He doesn't want them dead. Sorry. He just doesn't care. He doesn't care about people, just like Stalin did. He just thrown them into this grind of war, into this meat machine, as a food for their machine. Just like during World War II, they are just spending them as a material. They don't care. Putin doesn't want them dead. All these narratives about Putin is making the genocide of Russian people is actually something that Russian people would like to believe, because, yeah, Putin. My opinion is Putin just doesn't care about them. He cares only about capturing Ukraine, about occupying the whole territory of it, and he doesn't care how many people he needs to spend on this. That's it.
In all of the interviews that you've been watching, I'm assuming you had at least some fundamental idea of the Russian people, since they had invaded your country. After watching and dubbing all of these interviews, has that affected or shifted your perception of the Russian people any?
Yeah, I must say that I see a lot more of them than I did before. I have an understanding of what nation they are. And it's not just made by Putin. This nation was trying to capture Ukraine for centuries. Since, I guess, the beginning of it was in 15th century, when first time Moscovia, when they've been created by the Horde, by the Golden Horde. They've invaded Ukraine and they've burned Kyiv down for the first time. And since then, this nation, this is the revelation for me that this nation never changed. While watching this interview, I am starting to know more and more history, and I understand that these people are the same. And unfortunately, it's not only Putin's responsibility, and it's not only his doing. It's the centuries of not only their propaganda, but their way of life. And it's something that we Ukrainians are realizing here for the last year more and more. And you can only fully realize this when you've been attacked by Russia. I must say, I mean, guys, I must say that I have a great respect to everyone who supports Ukraine, but to fully understand Ukraine, I don't want to offend anyone, but to fully understand Ukraine and what Russians really are, you need to be here and you need to live through some of the things that they are doing to our country. This is why it's going to be really hard to convince people that Russia must not remain the empire it is right now. It must be disintegrated into many republics that will be, like national republics, where they have their own nation, only one nation that needs to be ruling themselves. So it's like a lot of countries of nationalists who will need to work on their own country, to build it up, because this kind of empire they have right now, it must not be must not stay here on the face of this earth. I got carried. Sorry for that.
No, I was just wondering. You said you've learned quite a lot. You've seen into kind of the Russian people a lot more. You've learned a lot more history, and it makes me kind of wonder. A lot of times, when it comes to militaries, one of the ways that the military forces can continue to function against other human beings with the great death toll that you see around you is to dehumanize what you're fighting against. And it strikes me that a lot of these interviews may actually be humanizing the Russian forces. Do you think that is humanizing them? And do you think that is a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I must say that you need to separate humanizing Russian forces from humanizing the occupants themselves as individuals. In every interview, interviewer tries, instead of humanizing them, it tries to show them, those prisoners, those occupiers, what their country and their army really is. And they usually succeed in that. I mean, no, they sometimes succeed in that.
Yeah.
Most of the times, unfortunately, they just.
Sir, let me interrupt for a second, sir. I've been watching the videos, sir. So let's just, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, it was just a miss.
Yeah, no, I know you're getting tired. We can see the sun setting in the background. I'm glad you corrected it. I'm giving you a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time because I can't. Anyways, sorry. Please continue.
No problem, Nick. So I was, I wanted to say that these guys. Let me remember the question, please. Humanizing and dehumanizing. Yes, I don't think that these interviews are humanizing. Well, I must say the bear himself was humanized, but in that interview, we saw that their army, their commanders, their whole system, and their whole way of living, even if that guy was humanized, but their way of living, the way of their penitentiary system, is it a word pronounced correctly?
Yes. Yes. Penitentiary system, yes.
Yes, it is really savage and fucked up, and it is just,
So what it sounds like you're saying, or at least what I'm getting from this, and correct me if I'm wrong, sounds like is that while some individuals, such as the bear, may be humanized and we see them as human beings, but their stories serve to dehumanize and really villainize the structure of the Russian forces that are and the mindset, and it, showing how bad it really is. Is that accurate?
Is villainize a bad thing in this case?
Well, you can villainize villainous things, and that would be proper. So I just, or to, it may perhaps to say, to illustrate the vileness of the system itself.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, that's actually the great correction. Thank you. Because yes, they haven't been villainized by these interviews, because they villainized themselves so well by all these terrorist attacks and invasions.
Right. I guess that was a better way of describing and illustrating the vileness of the system.
Yes.
In these
yeah.
Like I said, in all of these interviews, have you found any like very surprising things? What were the most surprising things that you came across?
Yes, Sandrine. Every interview gives me the new surprising thing. Every interview has the moment where I will just start laughing out of of their misery. No, not that. I mean, how miserable they are, for example, their system and stuff like that, or just some fact from conscription, for example. For example, that one guy was he was grabbed by the arm on the street. It's one of the recent interviews. He was one of the most educated of them, by the way. He was the student of Moscow University, National University. It's actually the top, and he was a studying journalist. And that guy was actually against the war in the beginning of war. And that guy was going with on the meetings in the beginning, in the very beginning of full-scale invasion. He was having a banner in his hands which was saying peace to the world and no to the war. And he was actually he got into police station for that two times. He was on 2 meetings, and after that he stopped going there. He realized that he can just, it is useless. They've built up such a fascist regime there that it's just useless. The only way to fight that regime is by force, is by weapons. And he thought that he can just go there with a banner and achieving something. But yeah, of course, people can be naive, and they need to learn their lessons. I just started by answering your question. I just thought that I need to tell you this story because it's really interesting, and I would love to make a dub someday with it. But we'll get later to that. But I wanted to say that this guy was grabbed by the arm. He got into, or was it the other guy? Yeah, it was the other guy. Sorry, I listened to too many of them. This is why they're messing up in my head. But okay, I'll continue with this guy, then I'll switch to the last guy that I wanted to tell you about before. But the story of this guy is that when he came to the draft board, he was told that either prison or the front line, actually not the front line itself, but second or third line of defense. And he said to 𝐒𝐴, to interviewer, that he will, I mean, no, it's not the same guy. Sorry, guys. But 𝐒𝐴 asked him, did you go there for money? And he said yes. So the guy who was against the war still came there for money because he thought that he's going to be on the second line of defense, and he doesn't want to go to prison. And even those who are against the war will participate in this war. Their Russian regime, Moscovia, as we call it here in Ukraine, will just grab them and put them there in any case, and they have no choice. And, it always seems that people have a choice, always, right? But if it is a choice of one torture or the other torture, it's hard to maybe blame them for not choosing the prison. And you never know how long it will last for. And of course, they're risking their life on the front line, but when they're getting to Russian prison, it is something that they're really scared of, and it's understandable. So this guy said it like openly and sincerely. He said, yes, I would go there again. And the other guy who I was messing up it in my mind with this guy said that I must say that I would do this again because there's no future after prison for me in Russia. So you see, Russia made just a fantastic, fascinating thing. Yes, fascinating thing. They've turned the fear of death into a smaller thing than fear of prison. That's the conclusion of this.
Yeah, that strikes me as a particularly sad realization to make, that they can offer a fate worse than death versus going. Do you have any other? What is that? One of the saddest things that you've heard in these interviews, or is there something else that's made you particularly sad?
I must say, guys, that even if we will stream for 5 hours today, I won't be able to cover even 20% of all the realizations and topics that I have in my mind and that I hear every day, and something new pop ups every day in a new interview. Some interesting facts, some interesting way of Russia, way of their military pops up, and it's just wow. I mean, I would love if you call me to your stream, to your show again, and we will discuss some updates on that, and we will maybe unravel some other topics and maybe unravel these topics too. But for now, I must say that maybe I will still tell you a couple of points that I have there prepared, but I see that we've been streaming for 2 hours already. And yeah, I can Yeah.
It's such seemingly simple questions, like, you know, what does make you sad about some of these interviews, and you realize the hours of answer that entails.
Yeah, you're right.
But no, I just want you to be able to come up with a couple of summarize hours and hours of interviews and just some of the tragedies that you've seen. Could you just give us a couple of sentences on summing that whole thing up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. I actually can.
But and you also had some prepared ones too, right? So you can. Well,
yeah,
I mean, my hope is to do at least another 20 minutes if everybody's good with that, and then we'll start wrapping it up. But I want to make sure, because I do want to. This is a huge part of. We really want to get the answers to this, so I want to take the time and do it right. So, anyways, I'm sorry I cut you off. Please continue.
Yeah, if or when you plan to to call me again, I would propose to talk about only prisoners of war, so we can make it more like productive in terms of this topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that I took a lot of time telling my story, but I guess people are interested in that too, because they were asking about it on the.
Yeah. It is important. I mean, people like to get to know the people. So, I think that information is important. And, there might have been a little bit of, should we do this, shorter and try and cram everything together at once, or, should it really be two separate things? And, we're trying to go for a little bit of brevity, a little condensation, but, the topics are pretty complex, and I think that it is useful for people to really kind of understand what's going on in like a human level, at least outside of Ukraine. It's so easy for those of us not directly affected by the war there, for us to be able to kind of brush it off, because, well, it really doesn't affect me. I have other things that I'm worried about, and I think it does well for people to understand the true cost of wars, and it helps also to understand when we should be engaging in them and when we probably shouldn't. So, that's not a light topic, or it's a topic that shouldn't be taken lightly. So I think that it's very useful for people to try and get an in-depth view and understanding, and part of that is understanding you as a person as well.
Thank you very much. I don't know, flattered and touched too. Thank you, guys. I must say that, a couple of topics I need to tell you, important topics, not topics, but points that I've noticed in these interviews that are common for all the prisons. And I want to tell you this thing, that Russians are in a state of learned helplessness. You know that term, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so their propaganda is aimed to make them feel helpless. They all say, every Russian will tell you when they call them and ask them, why did you let your husband or son go there to war? They always say three things. I'm not sure it's exactly three, but first, we are small people. We cannot affect anything in this country. Second thing, we are not interested in politics. It's common for Russians. They think that they cannot decide anything. They are not able to decide anything, and in some way it is true. I mean, in the country their regime built, and in the conditions they live in, this learned helplessness, they cannot really. It's actually affects like a cycle. It's the cycle of
self-fulfilling. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, I think, is the terminology. It reinforces each other.
I didn't even know that term. It reinforces each other, and the more they being brainwashed, the more they feel themselves helpless, and the more they feel themselves helpless, the more they cannot affect anything in their country. So this is it. This is something that I've noticed that they're all helpless in their mind. This is why they are helpless in something that is going outside. But not all of them, of course. There are examples of some Russians, that are fighting for Ukraine, in, for example, the Legion Freedom for Russia, or of Russia, or the Russian Voluntary Corps. Those are only Russians I respect, I must say, because, of course, even if I respect them, I am it. Let me translate the word just a second. I'm suspicious to them. Yes, I'm suspicious to them, of course, and I don't trust them. They can have my respect for now only for fighting for their country in a real way, when they can really affect anything. Because going there in a banner, no to war, it's a stupid decision, to be honest. And I guess most of them, some of them who are against the war realize that, and they are, some of them, traveling to Ukraine to join these or like units. Yes, they are units, military units. And this is the learned helplessness. I guess I unraveled this topic a bit. Covered, unraveled. You usually don't use the term unraveled, right, guys?
Not in that way, but yeah, you've previously covered it. We've already unpacked. Unpacked is another one that works.
Unpacked. Thank you. I still have to learn, and I'm always eager to learn more about English too. So don't feel shy to interrupt me and correct me.
Hey, I can't complain too much, because I'm surrounded by people that are multilingual, and I know just one language. It is, of course, the best language out there, English, but I only know the one. Whereas, I talk to so many people that speak several languages, and it's like I have on the one hand, I want to correct them when they make a mistake in English. But on the other hand, I'm like, dude, they speak two languages. What do I have to say about whether they're making small mistakes in one of those languages? Because I can't speak a second language at all. So,
yeah, you're right.
It's incredibly helpful. Yeah, and it's incredibly helpful to have people, even if you're not speaking perfect English. I mean, you're getting your points across, and it's incredibly helpful, because English may not be the most commonly spoken language in that area. So how are we supposed to know what's going on when you have arrogant people like me who believe they only need to know one language? It can be very difficult to understand what's going on.
We're going to be wrapping it up soon, so I do want to stay. I'm going to try to stay on it, because I think there are a couple of remaining questions we want to get to. So,
did you have a specific question you're wanting to get to before I get off in the weeds again?
No. Why don't you wrap it up? And I think you've got all the questions. I think we'll get it done. I just want to make sure that we stay on the on the dubs and what's been in them, because I do think that that's fascinating.
So when people ask you now, maybe they don't. If people ask you, what do you think of the Russian people? How do you respond to them?
Well, it depends on if person is Ukrainian or how
about to people who aren't familiar with Russians or Ukrainians at all? Maybe they've lived under a rock and didn't realize that Russia invaded Ukraine, and they're like, "Okay, well, what are you thinking about the Russian people now? They're clearly the aggressors in this. I would expect you to just hate them all. What are your feelings towards, just the general?" There's a difference and a distinction I like to make. We've talked to some other people that are in kind of extremist governments where the population doesn't necessarily agree with what their government is doing, and there is a bit of a distinction between the government of a country and its generalized people. So I guess it may be kind of a two-part. What are your feelings of the Russian government, which I think we're all have a fairly good idea of what that would be, versus your opinions of just the generalized Russian people.
Uh, it's a hard question, and to be honest, it's hard to um, answer it honestly without sound scary. I mean, okay, let me think. What do I think about Russian people? Well, I won't sound scary. I have other things in mind. I think that Russian people don't understand a lot of basic things, you know, like their culture. It's something that you cannot easily realize, and it's something that you need to deep dive in, and interviews are helping me with that. Is that their culture and traditions are making them believe that the world is built up as they used to it, and they've been living by these standards, by this understanding for centuries. And it is something, when you hear something from them, when they call obvious things by something opposite, and you realize, at some point you realize that this hasn't been made by Russian propaganda. This has something to do with their, I don't know, I won't say genes. No, not genes, but when genetic. When you say genetic, how can you call one gene? I cannot hear you, Nick. Sorry. So you need to unmute yourself
Once again, yeah, for genes, you can, yeah, for the genetic is genes works. I still have a hard time with it because I always think of clothing, but yeah.
When I say genes, I think about the pants, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, genes. It has something to do with their genes, and unfortunately, when Putin regime will fall, we will still have to deal with those genes. They won't just stop everything they are doing and become the democratic country. Let's call it that. They won't, because they have some tendencies in their societies, in their blood. God damn it! I didn't want to say it because it sounds, I don't know. It doesn't sound rational or constructive. It sounds like I'm, I don't know, blaming Russians for being Russians, for having Russian blood. But it is something I've learned lately, and I keep keep being convinced with every new interview in this thing. So that's maybe going to be a sum up for today. I still have a lot of points that I've prepared there, but let's leave it for the next time. It's going to be a reason to meet again and talk about it more. Yeah, let's maybe answer a couple of questions from the chat now.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to make sure, Xandring, were there any final questions you feel we need to get to today, or we're definitely going to have?
No, we're going to have them back. There's some other, interesting questions we can have them back for. I'd like to see. I don't have, because I'm driving, I can't read the chat, so I don't even have it up. So if you got some interesting questions from the chat, absolutely take those.
I think we got most of them. There was one, but yeah. Please.
Sorry, I just wanted to once again thank Xandring for great questions. Are these of your own, or you guys both worked on them? So I just don't want all the fame go to Xandring.
It's always a collaborative. So we both work together. So,
and we work together on my side too.
So both of you guys.
We sit and we workshop a show beforehand, and so it's thanking either one of us. We understand it usually includes the other in one way or another. So You can also, I get more thanks than he does, mostly because people are smart enough to realize that when he's talking, I deserve thanks for being able to shut my mouth, because it's a huge challenge for me. Like, Nick, thank you for being, and I'm like, what? I was talking the whole time. Oh, I was muted. Crap. But yeah, self-restraint is not. We had another 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴 gifted one show membership, so thank you so much for that. We're definitely going to have you back. I think there's a lot more to unpack here, and we do like to try to get understand your perspective as a Ukrainian as well. So I'm glad we did that. We'll have you back, and we'll just cover the videos, because I think there's so much more to do. So is there anything that you can think of that we missed that you wanted to point out or discuss, or anything that you'd like to add? We've got a description of your channel. Ali dropped earlier a link to how to support you and your work. That's also available on your channel. I will get that up in the description later today. I'm still looking from you later today just any contact information for the charity that you'd like us to donate to. All super chats will be going to that charity. But all that notwithstanding, was there anything else that you wanted to hit on before we go?
It's actually hard to remember something now. Let me just get back into the list. I'm gonna get to the other points later. Definitely, I'm not gonna be talking about that anymore. I guess we already covered a lot of interesting topics and a lot of. By the way, I just wanted to add that by a great question, you give me the opportunity to give you a very good answer. So I'm getting back to what I said before. I thank you guys for the great questions, because I didn't even think of touching something like that. And for example, the last thing, the conclusion about Russians, it was in my head, but I think I've never told it aloud like that. So thank you. It's been a great opportunity. I just want to thank you for letting me come here, for giving me this space and time, and I really appreciate what you guys doing to help Ukraine, to cover this important topic and keeping people informed and listening to the truth. Talking and speaking about Georgie and Ukraine matters. If everything goes as planned, we're gonna have the show this Sunday. It's gonna be this almost the same time. We're gonna be starting almost the same time you guys starting with me today. It's gonna be just half an hour later. The link is still not created. We still need to talk about it. We're gonna be doing it tomorrow. So yeah, for all the guys in the chat and who's watching, I'm sorry that I missed all the questions in the chat today. I usually do it on my stream, but hey, yeah, today I was the guest and I couldn't read the chat. But I saw you've been, yeah.
I've been reading the chat some. I actually try to stay out of the chat, and the reason for that is I can ask better questions when I'm really actively listening to you, hearing what you're saying, and so I try very hard to stay out of the chat, and I can get this. Oh, what did they say about my mother? Hold on a sec. So I can get derailed.
Well, normally if I'm not driving, I'm paying a lot more attention to the chat, because I can listen to two people at the same time a little bit better than Nick can. And so I do try and snag some of the good questions out of the chat, but sorry, I was driving today. I really couldn't do that.
Yeah, so usually I'll stay out of the chat, but we'll have somebody who will forward me if there are questions that I should know, and then they're in the Discord, and then I can get to them. I also have a sort of a linear way I like to approach interviews and discussions, so we'll get a great question, but I don't want to interrupt a really good stream of thoughts, and so I'll have to save it, and then if I don't have it written down, it gets complicated. It gets a lot easier when Andring's talking, because then I can start to sort all that. But yeah, we didn't get to the chat as much as I'd like to, and that does happen on these shows, and I think it's probably worth it for a better interview and staying engaged. I also want to say, yeah, your last answer, I can certainly understand. I mean, I think that's a hard question. I think there are people who would disagree with your answer. I would probably put myself on that list. But having said that, A, I think that's one where you could have a whole discussion on that. And B, I very much understand why that's your point of view, and probably I would share it if I were in your shoes. So it's one of those where I'm not interested as much in the right or wrong of it. What I'm interested in, what's your honest opinion as somebody who is going through something. And you had said something earlier, which I want to point out and just stick with for a minute, which is how different it is. We all like to think, all of us hopefully have some degree of empathy. And that means we can also say, oh, I kind of have some idea of what it would be like to be, yeah, it's probably about 1% of what it's like. I can't fathom what it would be like to be living in a town, not just that's getting bombed, not just where you have to try to figure out how you're going to not only maintain your life, but actually try to go to school or try to raise a family and do all of these things. And then to see on the news the people who are risking their lives to try to save you, and one of them gets encircled by a whole bunch of Russians. His last words are 𝐒𝐨𝐜𝐿𝐴, and then he gets shot 16 times. And you're sitting there going, these are your people. These are people you grew up with. These are people that went to schools very much like or even to your own. And this is how, and I'm sitting there going, I can't even begin to imagine how that would affect me to watch that. So,
I'm having hard feelings right now when you're mentioning this. And yeah, we just gotta talk about it. We gotta personal experience too, to unravel all this mystery. I know that the word unravel could be used with mystery, definitely.
It works here. It does work here. I stand by. It didn't work previously for having unraveled as other, but it's words are. We'll talk. I'm a fan of, and as someone who studies a lot of languages, I'm aware that you also don't want to just learn English, but you want to learn how to speak it culturally, and you're already very far on your way. So I'm genuinely impressed.
Well, one of the great things that I think is really important, and I try to emphasize this every time I'm with somebody, we're doing an interview with somebody from Ukraine. I do think that it's very important to bring that personal viewpoint. We, especially in the United States, are sitting back and it's like, well, we can look at all of the different sides and we can take the time and say, well, there might be a point here, or there might be a point there, or maybe I can understand why this is happening. Because it's not happening to us. We're not being affected by watching friends, family, and our fellow countrymen die. So, it's something that's far removed from us, and we can view it quite dispassionately. And I think that it's really important to be able to bring that personal effect. How is this affecting you on a personal level, to give a lot more insight into, what it's actually like for you. What is it like for the Ukrainian people? And because I don't think that we genuinely really comprehend that. We don't have empathy for that generally. We can have some pretty good sympathy, but it's really hard to have empathy. And I like bringing and being a part of interviews with people who are directly affected this, because it helps us to get to a more of an empathetic view of what is actually going on, which I think is useful.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to say that it's actually a great idea to come to Ukraine. I mean, yes, it's dangerous. It's always a risk to life. But if you don't go to the front line, the risk is like, I don't know, a 1,000% to die from a rocket or something like that. So if you guys someday think to come to Ukraine, maybe even before the end of war, consider that. I will definitely meet you here and will guide you, for example, around Kyiv and Kyiv region, which is deoccupied, and you still can see the consequences of war here. You can go to Bucha or Irpin, and after people come here, that a lot of political leaders around the world changed their minds like 180 degrees when they came to Ukraine. You can touch this experience even by just watching the consequences of war, not being present in some real actions, but just watching, not by not by a video or a photo, because it always changes the perspective a bit. You need to see it with your own eyes. So when people come here and see it with their own eyes, they understand us a lot more, and they understand what we might be going through. But actually, it's a great touch. So I call you to come to Ukraine.
You know what? I will.
As soon as they build a highway.
This is I will. I will honestly give that some thought. I think I would find that rewarding and a once in a lifetime opportunity. So let me give that some thought. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being honest with us. And it was a difficult interview. And sort of my hope is that our interviews are usually rewarding, difficult, but rewarding. So thank you. We will definitely have you back on again. Again, we will be having Operator Starsky, hopefully Georgie from Ukraine Matters, and Commander Lance McMillan on Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll also be doing Downtime on our other channel, our sister channel. Go over there. And if you can subscribe to that, we are, I want to say like 80 some odd subs short of 1,000. And as soon as that channel monetizes, life gets a lot easier for us. So that's our sister channel. That's usually where we put content that tends to be a little more evergreen. It's still educational content, but it's not necessarily breaking news, not what's happening right now. We have interviews with college professors on psychology, philosophy, sociology, history, and all that other stuff. I think it's a great channel. It's still in time. It's just not necessarily all the, and we'll do the Downtime is just we shoot the shit and whatever topics come up. Sometimes we're talking what's going on right now, and sometimes we're talking well, I was going to go into Commander's rogering a hippo thing, but you know what, it's probably time I should let that go. No, I should be
hiring a prostitute for a day.
There you go. Hiring a prostitute for a day. That's an overtime kind of discussion. So it's a bit of a different channel. It's still in time. I hope if you guys can go over there and just give it a subscribe as well, just because it really does help us out if we can hit to 1,000. But thank you all for your time. Thank you, Rick, for coming on. As Andring, great as always to see you, and look forward to seeing you all on Thursday for Downtime on our sister channel, and then Friday on this channel for Operator Starsky's check-in with Ukraine. Everything I'm hearing is that they're saying that the offensive is extraordinarily, the new expected offensive is close. It's imminent. It is days, if not hours away. So we may have a lot to talk about, but we always have a lot to talk about. So look forward to seeing you all then. Rick, once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will just say a quick word that once again, I thank you for inviting me, for having this great interview. I actually experienced a lot today. Thank you guys. It's interesting and exciting and encouraging. And I want to thank all the people who came today. Once again, thank you guys. Your support to Ukraine is just outstanding. And together we'll definitely defeat Russia and free all of our land. And I just will say bye, guys, and Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini. Thank you all. See you Friday.